Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ashley. In today's video, I'm going to be going through my June wrap up, and I'm also going to be touching on my July TBR list. We're gonna merge these two videos into one because honestly, there's not a lot. So I read, in my mind I'm putting that in air quotes because I did DNF a book this month, which is uncommon for me, but I will get to that. I read 6 books in the month of June. So let's start with the Kindle books that I read. So the books that I read on Kindle are not a part of my TBR tracker. So these you probably won't see coming if you have watched my TBR tracker video that I just posted earlier this week. But the ones on my Kindle that I did read. So I read, the first book that I finished in the month of June was called June Reimagined. Did I choose it because it was June? It is absolutely why I chose it. Was it a summer book? Nope, it's not at all. So June Reimagined takes you in the life of June, who has recently gone through a tragedy at home, and she's looking to escape. She's looking to find something to distract her, something to make herself feel like she's figured out who she is again. She lost someone very close to her. So as one does, we steal the ashes and we fly to Scotland. That is not a spoiler. That's literally how the book starts out, with her sitting at the airport holding an urn and flying to Scotland. She gets to Scotland. She has no rhyme or reason to be there. She has no idea what she's going to do. By the way, June is about 20 years old, I believe. She's in college. She's in between semesters. It's January. And she shows up in Scotland, where it is snowy and rainy and awful and not a great time to go visit Scotland. Through a series of lovely little meet cutes, she does end up finding a little job. She finds a place to stay. She finds a love interest. There's a fun dog. It was a lovely little book. I did enjoy it. It's a rom-com, I guess you could say, but it is a little bit of like women's fiction. She's finding out who she is. She's connecting with people back at home, her family, her best friend. And then she's also learning how to be on her own, and she's learning to tap back into who she really wants to become as she enters into adulthood. It was a sweet book. I was incredibly annoyed by her towards the end of the book though, because if there was ever a character who was surprised by the obvious things that happens to her, it's June Merriweather. And I kept thinking and saying and highlighting and writing on my Kindle, why are you surprised? Why are you surprised, honey? This happens. Miscommunication tropes, not my favorite. So all things considered, I feel like she was accurately written as a 20-year-old, at least the 20-year-old that I was and the 20-year-olds that I knew. I would say that she was a fairly accurate representation of a 20-year-old college student. The tropes in this are found family, small town. It is a really sweet book. I would recommend. I gave it 3 stars, mostly because I couldn't with her. There were a couple things in this book where she was like, wait, what? And I was thinking, June, come on. Did you not really see that coming? Bear with her, please. And there is a bit of just losing someone and then taking that guilt on yourself, which June and her mother do exquisitely. As far as Steam is concerned, there's a few sex scenes in the book between the main character and the main male character that she meets in Scotland. Surprise. Take that with what you will. I'm not a huge Steam person, so if there is Steam, I tend to gloss over it a little bit. Overall, I would recommend the book if you're looking for a nice, fluffy, quick read. It didn't take long. Usually when I'm reading Kindle, I'm reading it before bed because my husband cannot handle the light of a book light. He is blinded by it. Kindle is the only thing I can read on my way to bed. And so usually my Kindle books take me a little bit longer because I'm only reading a chapter or two, enough to get me to fall asleep. All right, my next Kindle book that I read this month is the book that I DNF'd, and that was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I bought The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo when I very first got a Kindle. This was way back in 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. I have never seen the movie. I knew nothing about the book. I just knew that it was popular and it was being raved about, so I thought, I'll give it a read. Y'all, it took me weeks to get through the first chapter of the book. It's also set in Sweden, so I don't get a good grasp on locations as they're talking about them. And I'm like, is that a location or is that the name of a hotel? Is that a person or is that a city? It just took me forever to get through it. So finally, I'm getting into the second chapter of the book, and we are learning about the main female character and who she is, what she does. And I start to realize as I'm reading through this chapter, I thought, oh no, this is going to be filled with a lot of stuff I don't actually want to read about. I paused the book, I got online, and I Googled trigger warnings for the girl with the dragon tattoo. And what came up was incest, sexual assault, rape, abuse, animal mutilation, and no thank you. I absolutely had to stop it. I think that Ashley in 2012 that bought this book would not have been, I would have been bothered, don't get me wrong, but I would have been able to get through it. Current day Ashley, who is 19 weeks pregnant and cried during ACOTAR 2. Listen, I cried in the shower the other day for no reason and was just sobbing. Not gonna do that book. It's not for me, not right now. We're gonna pass. All right, now on to the physical books that I did read this month. These were on my TBR tracker, so I did get to mark them off. I was very excited about it. And now that they are finished being read, I can flip them on my bookshelf. They will go on this way instead of spine first. So I know that I read them, and this brings me so much joy to be able to do this. I am gonna be going through these in order of least favorite to favorite. First book that I wanna talk about is The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. This was gifted to me from my old book club back in Missouri. We had what is it? It's like a secret Santa. So everybody brought a book, you wrapped it up, and you just chose books. I ended up actually not being there because I was sick. My best friend dropped this off with me afterwards, and it happened to be her pick. I was very excited. She raved about it. So when I finally, also this was like 2019, whenever this happened. I texted her and I said, I'm finally reading The Woman in Cabin 10. And she said, weren't you supposed to read that like 3 years ago? And yes, I also have books on my shelf from over 20 years ago. I'll get there when I get there, and I finally got there. As you can see, I tabbed it a little bit. I'm new to annotating and tabbing, but I realized that it has helped me remember plot points a lot more than I ever have before. So I've been enjoying tabbing. So this book, The Woman in Cabin 10, is a thriller. I am not a huge thriller person, but I do like them. So I try to at least put one thriller in my rotation for the month. It's a frustrating book because, first of all, the main character is absolutely unlikable. I did not like her in the slightest. And so I did not feel that there was a lot of risk because I thought, I don't really care what happens to you, which I know it sounds terrible. By the end of the book, I cared, okay? I did care, but throughout, she was just insufferable. This book was written in 2016, and it does have discussions around anxiety. She does take medication for anxiety, and it seems to focus on that a lot as being something that she should be ashamed of. But the point of the book was to get over that shame. Like the author was really trying to push that there's no shame in taking medication for anxiety. And that really feels like 2016. There is suggestions of abuse, of physical abuse between a couple. There is a lot of gaslighting, okay? There is gaslighting out the yazoo. That's right, I said yazoo. There is also some kidnapping of adults. So listen, I mean, I read this in about 3 days. That's very fast for me. So by the time it's a pretty short book. I think it was only 375-ish pages. 339 pages. Very quick read. I did enjoy it. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. Really knocked it down because the main character was awful. Also, I guessed the plot. I guessed the twist. I guessed what was going to happen. The book finally picked up for me in the tail end. I was like, okay, what's going to happen? Like, it was finally starting to pick up speed. What would continue to happen in this book that drove me a little crazy was the main character would uncover something. First of all, let me tell you, hello, my name is Ashley, and I have never done summaries of books before on video, so... Our main character, Lo, is a journalist for a travel magazine, and her cohort at work, currently she's pregnant and she is super, super sick. So Lo gets to go on a vacation on a luxury yacht in her place. It's a very small boat. Only 10 cabins exist. Only 10 cabins exist on the ship. They managed to fit in a ton of stuff on this boat. There's a full library, dining hall, a sauna, hot tub, like all these things. It is luxury. So everybody on this ship is either there for publicity because it's its maiden voyage, or they're there because they are rich and have a lot to offer. Her first night there, she hears something. Something also happens in the beginning of this book that kind of sets her on edge for the rest of the book. The book does start out with a bang. Oh my gosh. All right, this is what's going to be happening through this whole book. You just kind of see how this event at the beginning of the book really impacts her anxiety going throughout the rest of the book. She's on the ship one night. She thinks she hears something happening, and she believes she's witnessed a murder. Literally nobody believes her. It was such a fun setting for a book, I thought. Anyway, if you're looking for a very quick read, this is it. There's zero steam in this. That's not true. There's very minimal steam in this. I have a problem with female leads who do not stand up for themselves. If you are a female lead character at the beginning of the book who's not standing up for yourself, you better be standing up for yourself by the end of this book. Thankfully, she pulled it together. Quick thriller. Yes, this is your book. Enjoy. Let me know what you think about it. Like I said, I believe I gave it 3.5 stars. Why did I not check before I started filming this? Next time, okay? Next on the list of books that I read in the month of June is ACOTAR. Yes, I read A Court of Thorns and Roses. A Court of Thorns and Roses. You know exactly what this is. Do I even need to review this? This was probably the first book I read this month. I gave this book 4 stars. I know, I didn't give it 5. And I'll tell you why. I don't live under a rock, and I know what happens in like the other books. I don't know everything that happens, but I know enough to know that characters are going to change. I really did enjoy the world, or the world building that was done on this. I feel like if you're a beginner into fantasy, this is a pretty decent book. This will be, it could be challenging for you, but more than likely it's going to be pretty easy. It's pretty easy to understand. I didn't have any struggles with it. I do love fantasy books though. It's always nerve-wracking when you open a book and find a map. But the map wasn't complicated. It was easy. And this book follows Farah as she has gone out. What regional diction was that? AS? Okay, this book follows Farah. She is basically in charge of keeping her family alive. She goes out into the woods to hunt, and she sees a wolf, kills it. Apparently this is a big no-no, and she was not aware that she was not to kill this wolf. As the plot progresses, we learn that Farah now has to atone for her crimes by going and living with the Fae in a completely different part of the country. And it is eternally spring there, and she is welcomed into this world of just oddities that she's not used to seeing. There's plenty of food, there is massive estates, and there is clearly a curse going on, as everybody who is in this part of, I'm gonna keep saying the country, everybody who's in this part of the world cannot take their masks off of their face. There is some really great explanation on how some of these Fae look. A lot of them felt terrifying as I was reading it. And I was like, she's describing these very well. The scenes that are supposed to be tense are very tense. There is a scene towards the end of this book that I did not think I was going to be able to get through. I literally went, Farah, no, Farah, don't. All right, like this is where I was. And my husband is sitting on the couch watching me read, and he goes, why do you read books that are going to do this to you? And I'm like, shh, not now. We'll discuss this later. We'll be reading A Court of Mist and Fury? ACOTAR? I'm not reading it this month. As I was reading it, I thought, this feels like Beauty and the Beast. I did not realize that that was intentional. So as I started seeing other people's book reviews and they were saying, yeah, this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, I thought, aha, okay, well, she did a great job, because I definitely picked up on that, Belle's being forced to go live in a castle that has a lovely little library, and she's living with a beast, and she learns to love the world that she's in, and that is what happens with Farah, of course. So, was that a spoiler? I think it's probably fine. So anyway, here we are. A Court of Thorns and Roses. I would recommend it strictly because it is super hyped, and it has been hyped for a while, and it's hyped for a reason. The steam level on this is fairly minimal. It's very, very minimal. I do understand that the later books pick up in intensity, like scorching. So this is not your book for steam. ACOTAR, Sarah J. Maas. Enjoy. Go grab a copy. let me know what you think if you haven't read it yet. If you have read it and you're livid at me for only giving it 4 stars, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. I just couldn't. I couldn't give it 5. It didn't give me a 5-star feeling. I'm stingy with my stars, and it didn't hit me with a 5. Maybe when I get through the series, I will appreciate this first installment a lot more. But as it stands right now, it was just a jumping off point. It's just a jumping off point to start negotiations. Next on my list of books that I read in the month of June is Firefly Summer by Maeve Binchy. Did I hear everybody go, who? What? When? You'd be correct. So this book was written in 1987. It was given to me when I worked at a bank many, many years ago. We had an elderly client come in, and we were a very slow branch, and we would read a lot. And he brought in 2 Maeve Binchy books, and he was like, all right, I see that you guys read a lot. Have you read Maeve Binchy? And we were like, no, not at all. And he said, okay, I just want you to try these out. She is a wonderful author, and they'll just make you feel good. He was not wrong. This is a literary fiction. It's just beautiful. I love reading books that were set. First of all, the book is set in the early 1960s. It covers a span of about 4 years. So you get to be with the characters for a long time. And the books that are written or even set just before 2000, I love, because it's just it just feels simpler. There's no cell phones, essentially. Okay. This is definitely a small town trope. This is a third person POV. It was not difficult to read the third person. They do jump around to all the characters there. This is very character heavy. So at the beginning, you're going to find like, okay, I don't know who some of these people are. What she does, though, that's beautiful is she will remind you multiple times throughout the book who someone is. Like, even towards the end, she'll be like, Judy Byrne, who is the town chiropractor. Like, and she will tell you over and over again who that is, especially if they haven't been in the plot for a while. This was a long book. It was 645 pages, I believe. Yeah, 645. I can't tell you enough how beautiful it was. I gave it 4.5 stars. And the reason I docked a 1/2 star is because this book ends abruptly and no epilogue. And I needed to know what happens to some of these characters. So the book takes us over to Ireland in the early 60s. It's a very small town. It has several pubs and like a dinky little grocery store. And then here comes this American millionaire whose family is from the town, and he wants to rebuild a famous estate that burned to the ground many, many years ago when his grandfather lived in the town. And his grandfather was never allowed at this estate. So it's his like personal vendetta against the people who owned Ferns Court, which is the name of the estate, the Ferns. So he's gonna build a hotel, and everybody's gonna be welcome. Well, through the process of building a hotel, he's also going to have a bar and have a pub and have horse riding and have another place to stay. So all the other businesses that exist in this town can be swept up in this and would be made obsolete because they're no longer needed. He's not an evil guy. Like, he's not out there trying to ruin the town. He's trying to make the town better, and he's trying to find ways to incorporate the other businesses within the town. There are storylines between all of the adults that are in the town. There are storylines between the kids. Kids are like so mature for their age for the most part. He captured what it was like to be a 15-year-old girl, I think, fairly well. A lot of not knowing who you are yet in the world, but wanting to be, you're wanting to be an adult, but you're still missing being a kid. And that's done really, really well in here. Unfortunately, Maeve Binchy passed away. So we will be getting no more books from her, but she has many, many books. Highly recommend if you want just a nice literary fiction that will make you feel really good in your heart. There are some hard things in this. Hard things happen in life. Hard things happen in this book. There are accidents that change the course of people's lives. I gasped. I cried. I did laugh a lot. There's a lot of that. It was just such a beautiful book. So I would recommend, if you're looking for something where you just want to get really sucked into a world. I have been thinking about this book ever since I stopped reading it. That is a good sign. All right. The final book that I finished in the month of June is Part of Your World, Abby Jimenez. I saved it for last because it was my favorite. I gave it 4.75 stars. Look at all the tabs. Why did I only give it 4.75 and not also, I got it in May of 22. So that's not too bad for a book of the month. I usually have some that are a lot older. Why did I not give it 5 stars? The only reason I did not give this book 5 stars, the only reason is because this is just an annoying thing I've never seen happen before, okay? The steam level in this book is there, but it's mostly fade to black. I think because Abby wrote so much about it fading to black, it felt like she really wanted to remind everybody that, oh no, they are having sex. They're having it a lot, like 7 times in a weekend, and it's really good. And there were page after page after page after page. I feel the whole middle chunk of this book was literally page after page of her reminding the audience Daniel and Allie are having sex, and it's fantastic. Next page. Oh, did you forget? They're definitely having sex, and it's awesome. Next page. Their sexual attraction, through the roof. They're having a lot of it, and it's awesome. It was that over and over and over, and I thought, is this going to be the rest of the book? Because I can't. I literally can't if she's going to keep doing this. It drove me up a wall. If it had not been for that, this absolutely would have been a 5-star read. I was laughing out loud so many times through this book. The dialogue, the banter, the wit. Don't even get me started. Her best friend, Bree. I died. Daniel and Allie's meet cute, which happens right at the start of the book. And then when they kind of reconnect, their actual first conversation. Oh, chef's kiss. So adorable. So beautifully written. I mean, it was comfort. This was comfort in pages. This isn't a terribly long book. It's 372 pages. It's a lot for me to read 100 pages a day. I was easily breezing through this book. Genre is absolutely chick lit. I don't know if people say chick lit anymore. I haven't heard it used in a long time. It is a rom-com for sure. Absolutely adorable. It's dual point of view. It is small town, found family. So good. So good. I will say what I did not see coming, okay? What I did not see coming were the different levels of abuse that do take place in this book. If you are someone who has gone through some emotional abuse in the past, look out. It snuck up on me. Saw the signs right off the bat. I even made a note on one of my earlier pages. She's not used to this. She's not used to having someone want to take care of her. And pretty soon I turn the pages and I'm finding out exactly why. There are aspects of emotional abuse in this. There are characters that have some physical abuse aspects in this. And so this is all about, it feels like breaking the cycle. Just because you grew up in something or just because you've been around something for so long, it doesn't mean that that's what you deserve. Absolutely had me sobbing in certain parts because of this. It was so beautifully written. She did wonderful research. She had excellent resources to help her write these women's stories. Again, I have not even talked about the plot of this book. Okay, we're gonna get it together. Allie is driving home from a family funeral. She swerves to miss a raccoon in a small town and ends up with her car in a ditch. She calls a tow truck, and instead of a tow truck showing up, it is Daniel. And he's like, yeah, you're going to be waiting here for a little bit because our tow truck driver, he is 7 drinks in right now at the VFW. So good luck. He pulls her out. He's like, have a nice day. Allie ends up hungry. She wants to stop for food. There's nothing in this small town. This is where I live. This is 100% the town in Montana that I live in. If it's a tourist season, everything's open until 9 and you're going to find some food somewhere. If it is between the months, if it's after Labor Day and before Memorial Day, so September through May, y'all, nothing is open, okay? Like there is nowhere to eat. The places that there are to eat are really like, you can't trust that they're going to be open just because you pull up on Google to see if their hours are accurate. You could show up and they're like, we didn't have enough staff today, so we're closed. Like that happens a lot here. So this is very realistic. And the one place that we know will always be open here in our town is our bar. So our bar with our bar food, that is our place that we go to eat a lot because we know it will be open rain or shine, funded by locals and fishermen. Incredibly accurate. She stops by the VFW to get a bite and is realizing very quickly she does not want to eat any of this food. It feels a little sketch. And why is everything deep fried? She ends up meeting Daniel again, and they end up going back to his place just to eat some food. Just to eat some food. It's not with the intention of taking her home. But then fade to black. She has just gotten out of a really rough relationship. She lives 2 hours north. She is a doctor. Her family has a huge legacy of running this hospital. There's a whole storyline there between her brother and her parents. I'm not even going to get into that. But she is trying to decide if she wants to stay a part of her world where she is set to take over the hospital essentially, and she needs to do this because her dad tells her she has to do this, or is she going to figure out a way to make it work where she can be more a part of Daniel's world in this small town that he lives in, where he's also part of a legacy that goes back the same amount of time. Also, there is a baby goat, and we have fostered goats before, and everything about this small town is perfection and incredibly accurate. Back and forth between Daniel and Allie with their point of view. They are just adorable. Any signs of a miscommunication trope that started to sneak in were quickly resolved, which I super appreciated, because miscommunication happens in real life. It's true. It does. It happens. Oh my gosh, it was just such a good book. It's super funny, very heartwarming. I laughed, I cried, I had all the feelings while reading this. I would highly recommend this book, especially because even with the triggers that might be in there with the emotional and physical abuse, I think it's important to read these women. I think it's very important to read these women because, like I said earlier, if you're going to have a woman who is a doormat, she better not be a doormat by the end of the book. Yes. 100% yes to this book. Really wish there wasn't all those pages reminding us about how awesome the sex was, because this would have easily been a 5-star read. Easily. All right, so those were all of the books I read in the month of June. I want to go through quickly what my TBR pile looks like for July, and then we'll wrap this up. Here we are. Currently, I'm finally reading Malibu Rising. I know. I have started it. I'm just a little bit of the way through. I've tabbed a couple spots already. This is only my second Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I've ever read, and I have heard that they all... It's a world she's created, okay? They all relate somehow. This book takes place in the 80s. The other Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I've read are The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So I did recognize, the character Mick and from Seven Husbands. And so this is his kids and how like a 24-hour period can apparently end in flames. Hi, it is later the same day, and I had this super fun thing happen earlier where I was filming and my phone ran out of memory because I'm filming on my phone. Moving along, let's figure out the rest of what I'm reading this month. So after I finished Malibu Rising, Jurassic Park. I knew it was going to be coming. I'm very excited to be reading this. I do hear it's nothing like the film, which I wouldn't expect that it is, but I have seen the movie about 8,000 times, so looking forward to being really angry after reading this. Following Jurassic Park, I will be reading It's Fine with Caroline. I bought this at some point because I thought the cover was really cute. I don't think I actually read anything about it. I do see it happens, or it takes place in the Ozarks. I'm not from the Ozarks, but we are from Missouri, and we vacation in the Ozarks a lot, so I'm kind of excited to read this. If you've ever heard of it, let me know. I know nothing about it. Finally, the last read that I have on my TBR for July is Instructions for Dancing. This is a book of the month book from June of 2021. Like I said, always behind. Looking forward to reading this. I was debating between this and another book this month, and I flipped the inside cover, and I wasn't even halfway through with what it was about. I was like, this is it, this is the book. So very excited for this book. So those are my July TBR books. I hope you enjoyed this June wrap up and July TBR mix. Hopefully you are having a wonderful summer and you have a very full reading list and you're tackling your own physical bookshelf. Get those books read. All right, guys, thank you for coming back and watching me. I will see you soon. Bye.